Up there?
He's up in, yeah, he's right. He's near there. Because I may go up sometime this summer to see him. But my boyfriend's Alex. With Alex, and if you could, we could all get together.
I hope the house will be sold by then.
Oh, okay. You don't know what to tell you about. Larry, tell me the film.
Let me give ground rules. No talk about Barbra Streisand. None.
About what?
Barbra Streisand.
I wasn't even going to ask you about that. I have no
about
interest in Barbra Streisand. See, now the editor's going to say, why didn't you ask him about Barbra Streisand? No, it's not. This is your timeline. It's not on the list. The film is being, the play is being filmed now, right now in New York. Tell me a little bit about how the film came about.
Oh my. Well, over the years, a lot of people have optioned it, including a man by the name of Dante Di Loretto, who works as assistant to Anthony Edwards. You remember him?
Yeah.
And didn't work out. And he went to work for Ryan. And he brought it to Ryan. And Ryan called me up one day. I didn't know who the fuck he was.
Right.
And I said,
who the fuck are you?
I said, yeah, are you serious about all this? I want $1 million.
Right.
That's what I want $1 million. And if you're not serious, goodbye. He says, shut up, you'll get your $1 million.
He said, I'll get you $1 million. He said, I'll get you $1 million, shut up. Did you get your $1 million?
Maybe we shouldn't mention
Well,
it.
all right, I won't mention it.
Yeah.
How did Brad Pitt get involved?
Well, Ryan, I'm not sure. He's got some kind of relationship with Brad's company. They made Eat, Pray, Love together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more courtesy than anything, bringing them in, because HBO was running the show.
HBO didn't want it or did want it?
No, HBO was running the show.
Okay, I see. I'm sorry.
They were so euphoric about it. Michael Lombardo. Oh.
About this film, HBO.
Oh. They've seen dailies. I haven't.
You don't want to see the dailies. You don't want to see the dailies. You're right, Larry?
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
I have a call.
The reason I asked about Brad Pitt is he, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about him for a moment because of the Hollywood major stars. He seems the most sympathetic to gay rights and gay causes.
I wanted him very much to play the part of Bruce, but I don't know that it ever got to him. But
you don't know if he ever got the offer?
I don't know if he, it's it's the Paul Popham character that Taylor Kitsch is playing magnificently.
The guy playing it is magnificent?
Oh, do you remember Taylor Kitsch?
Good
He
Lord.
was in Friday Night Lights.
Oh, yes.
The camera loves him. Amazing. Anyway.
How did Mark Ruffalo get picked? I love him. I know him. I just think he's...
That was what Ryan said, I want Mark Ruffalo. I have no objection. At one point earlier on, in one of the many pre-lives, Craig and Neil were going to do it with George Wolfe and Ben Stiller.
Oh, with Ben Stiller? Oh, with Ben Stiller playing you?
Yeah. And it didn't gel. I'm telling you, it's been around. It's been around.
But Mark is perfect for it. Mark Ruffalo is perfect for it.
He's unbelievable for it.
Yeah.
Oh, the head of HBO said to me he'd seen he'd seen all the Neds, and he thought that Marx was the most layered and complicated.
Complicated actor.
Mm.
He's. Let me ask you. This script has been out for what, 10 years, 15 years, trying to be produced.
Since 85, 84.
Since 84, 85. Well, the play was 85. Has there been, is the reason it hasn't been produced to this point to do with the fact that actors are afraid, major stars, I mean, Mark Ruffalo is a major star, are afraid to play gay?
I don't think that's so anymore. I think it was early on when we tried to cast the original production with Brad. You know, we waited forever for Al Pacino, who diddled us, to make up his mind. But
you offered it to Pacino too?
That was Joe Papp's idea. I mean, I was very happy with Brad.
Oh, Brad! I think Brad was going hot. Brad, you talk about Brad Davis?
Yeah. In those days, it was hard to get actors to go gay. That was 84, 85. But later on, the second production with Raul Esparza, it wasn't hard.
But when you had Brad, I remember I saw it when it was out in the public. And I remember Brad Davis. And then I remember later, when he came down with AIDS, Brad Davis, right? And how did that happen? How to
get AIDS? From drugs.
From drugs?
They all have made a movie called Some Best Friends or something. It was made in Boston. And everybody was taking drugs right and left. That's how we got it.
Tell me about why you wrote
Why?
A Normal Heart.
I wanted to get the message out. I knew that no one would make a movie of it. And I knew that...
Who would make a movie?
Huh?
What did you say? You knew
nobody would make
that
it.
Nobody would make a movie.
And I knew that it would take me too long to write it as a novel, judging how long Faggots took me, so that it only left writing a play. I'm not necessarily enamored of the play form. I'd had a bunch of flops off Broadway, but I tried again, and fortunately Joe Papp was around, so.
But Larry, you said the night before last at the library that I just want to just a note. I got. You remember the boy? I don't know if you remember, but last year the boy. I think it was last year. I brought to a performance of A Normal Heart. Do you remember him? And you were sitting there, and I brought him over to meet you. And he knew nothing. He's a gay guy from England, and knew nothing about. He's a really beautiful boy. Knew nothing about AIDS at all. I mean, nothing about all that. And he was in tears at the end of the play. And do you remember? He went over and he tried to give you a kiss. Do you remember that? I heard from him today. He's in Bangladesh working with the garment workers.
Good.
To try to organize unions. He's 27 years old now.
Good for him.
And I told him I was going to be seeing you, and his name is Rory Creedon, and he said to give you his love. So I've done that.
Quite frankly, I find the attention being paid uncomfortable. No one knows it, but I'm sort of essentially a shy person, and I don't, people rushing up and blah, 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 making a mess over me. I find it hard to deal with. I don't know why, I just do. I mean, I got other things to do.
Well, you know why they do that?
They need to.
Because you were proved right.
Well,
do you remember? 30 years ago, everybody was shitting all over you saying you were wrong, and it turned out you were right.
Well, I mean, I know they need to do it for any number of reasons, and that's fine.
When you were talking to Tony on stage, you talked, and I wish you'd tell me a little bit about, you talked about going to Dachau.
Yeah.
And how that affected, and you said that led to your writing the play.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I'd been thrown out of gay men's health crisis. My baby, which was very painful. And so I went to London to start writing something, a play.
Right.
Roger McFarlane said that I'd have brought my downfall at CMHC so I could go out and write a play, but that wasn't true. And I was in London, and somebody had said, go to Germany, go look at Dachau. I don't know how I heard it, but I did, and I followed my instincts.
It was just an instinct that brought you there.
And when I went there, I saw how early Dachau had been opened, whatever it was, 1931, 1933. And I thought, holy shit, they were locking us up that early, and we didn't even know it. And it was a lesson that had to get out there for us, I thought. So that got me going. Came back to London, got on a plane, went to Wellfleet, where Felix had left me this little house on the beach. And
it's up at the Cape.
Huh?
Is it the Cape?
Yeah, Wellfleet, yeah. And that's where I wrote the first draft.
You said when you talked about Dachau, and it actually sort of starting in secret in 31 or 33, and then you compared it to the experience going on with AIDS in this country in 84, 85, 86. And you said I have to take that lesson back. And what was the lesson of Dachau that you had to take back?
They were murdering Jews a lot earlier and gays, and gypsies, all of whom were thrown into Dachau a lot earlier than I, for one, ever knew, or anyone else. So I've always felt that our government has allowed us to die, literally. And here was the case where the government was doing just that. You know, Hitler's idea for the final solution came from America. It's an American idea. It came out of the eugenics movement, if you remember that. And there were books written about how to get rid of people who were not
Who were defective.
Yeah. And someone sent him the book, the main book, by some professor at Yale, believe it or not. I think they had it translated. Anyway, he read it. This is in the early 30s, late 20s. And he said, that's it. Now I know how to do it.
Well, it's a little off of the, but when you say the government, I agree with you, by the way, but when you say the government, was it that the government was indifferent, or that the government was actively turning away from the problems of AIDS?
What's the difference?
There isn't any difference. If it had been, let me ask you a question. You're not going to like me saying this, but it was, I brought this, I was interviewed George Bush the second when he was in, I've interviewed all the presidents, but he was in the office. And one of the things I brought up to him, Larry, is I said to him, this, and he turned, all right, I'm not going to take credit for anything. We were sitting up at the residency where he was just, the interview was over, we were just talking, right? Although I have it on tape. And I said to him, you know, Mr. President, great crime happened in this house. And I said, it's similar to the crime that happened in the Vatican. I said, in the 1940s, the Pope knew the Jews were being taken out of Rome, out of Italy, and killed, and said nothing. I said, Ronald Reagan knew people were dying, his own people, Americans, and said nothing. And I said, Mr. President, I hope you don't finish your term like that with another crime of silence. This is absolutely true. And you're not going to believe it, but 2 weeks later, he announced that he was going to do the initiative in terms of AIDS funding for Africa. All right. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. This is my question.
You notice it was for Africa, not for America.
Speak to that point.
Well, so his hands are clean as far as Reagan is concerned, or Bush, or the government, or whatever. He was not. The initiative was for Africa,
rather than here.
Rather than here.
Do you think if this is a rhetorical question? Do you think if AIDS, when you and I were little children, polio was rampant, and the government went through a practically Marshall Plan to find a cure for it because it was attacking little white babies? Do you think if AIDS had hit little white babies, we would be where we are today? Don't you think?
It's a dumb question.
No, it's not a dumb question.
Of course.
What I'm saying is the indifference of the government because of the nature of the victims, because you're talking about junkies and minorities and gay people. There was a pariah class.
Of course it's because of who gets it. Ronald Reagan said very early on that he was unalterably opposed to anything that could be construed as having anything to do with homosexuality. He said that. That's the only words he said for 7 or 8 years. So everybody knew what he felt. Not dissimilar with Hitler. Hitler was known to have said certain things that said them once, and all his lackeys knew that's what he wanted and pursued those goals. I have no question that this was intentional. You can call it murder, genocide, whatever you want. None whatsoever. The NIH did not show up for a site visit for close to 4 years. Don't tell me that's humanity. Dr. Gallo sat on his HIV test for like 4 or 5 years before releasing it because he wasn't guaranteed his royalties yet. And thousands of people who could have been notified they were positive weren't.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Well, you heard it here first.
That's shocking. Isn't that criminal? I would call that criminal.
What?
I would call that criminal.
I do. I would call it evil.
Evil.
Yes. I think now that I've come through the other end, I consider a great deal of what was done to us and to me evil. You know, I sit here writing and feeling so shitty, and I'm saying, you know, fuck you, United States government. You did this to me, and I don't like it.
Why? By 1985, 86, everybody knew about AIDS.
I mean, they don't all know about it now.
Right. But you look back at that, and I look at the heroes of AIDS in the beginning, and there weren't many. It was you, and I look at Elizabeth Taylor, and I think to myself, and she put a lot on the line to come out, and she got really fucking angry, and she never let go. And I look at her, and I think to myself, where were all the other Hollywood stars? Where were...
Let's talk about Elizabeth Taylor.
Huh?
She was buddies with Reagan. She never once went to him about this.
She didn't?
Not considered de rigueur, or whatever the expression is. She was a star and she led her name to it. But she didn't use her power to confront the powers that be.
That you mean the president? You mean she was married to a senator. You mean the president and the political powers?
Yeah. And she had, one of her kids has AIDS. One of the girls, I think.
When you started, if I can go way back for a minute, Larry, I read that when you were at Yale, that you tried to kill yourself.
Right.
And was that why? What was that about?
I was very unhappy.
You were very...
I thought I was the only gay person in the world.
Only gay person. I thought the same thing.
And I certainly didn't see anyone up there. And I just got very depressed one night, and it was actually during the afternoon, and did it. Anyway.
And you took an overdose of aspirin, right?
Yeah, 2 bottles, 200.
What? When that event, after that event, what turned you around? What made you go on? I'm looking for something positive here.
I guess I got frightened, and I called
You call your friends?
The campus police, and they rushed me to the hospital, pumped my stomach.
But when you were through that, when you got out of the hospital, out of the depression, what brought you back into life? Did you meet someone? Did you?
My brother had just come back from his honeymoon. He was the first person I saw when I came to. When we were very close, and because of him, usually when a student does something like that, they make you leave for a year.
Right.
And because of him, I was able to stay and start psychoanalysis in New Haven. So that's what I did.
Reason I brought that up, Larry, is that reason I brought that up. I want to ask you 2 questions. One is the suicide rate today among gay and lesbian teenagers is astonishingly high. And this is after all the supposed progress we've made in making gay people feel accepted.
Life is very fragile, and it's very difficult for us, no matter how secure we think we are in the firmament. It's like your Tennessee Williams quote, which you gave me,
right,
which I love and I hope you'll use. When you leave the room, you're
the dirty cocksucker who walked out the door.
That's it.
But what?
Everybody who goes into a voting booth and votes for anything that's against us hates us. And we do not accept that. We don't think that way, and we should. We are hated, and we have been. In writing this book, The American People,
right,
we have been hated for so many centuries. And you would think somewhere along the line we could have learned how to fight back. Hannah Arendt, the great social philosopher, used to yell at the Jews.
Pardon?
Used to yell at the Jews, which she was.
Right.
Why don't you form an army? She was saying, and fight back.
But why is that? Why? Let's just take it one point in time. Why are we hated so much? I mean, sodomy used to be a capital offense in most of the United States. You could be executed for it.
I don't know why we're hated, but we are. And I don't know. It's the same with abortion. I don't really know why that makes people so angry. Makes no sense.
You think it's the church?
I think religion has a great deal to do with it. Yes.
Why are we, I'm talking about as gay people.
Hmm?
I'm talking about as, not just gay people, but as liberal people, as humanistic people. Why are we afraid to take on the haters in the church and the haters that take on Islam, which Yemen stoned 9 teenage boys under the age of 16, put them up 2 years ago, put them in the sand up to their neck and stoned them to death because an imam had accused them of having homosexual thoughts, right? Why is there no outcry about that?
Because we're a disorganized population. We have no leaders. Only now are a couple of the organizations sort of shaping up a little better compared to what they were, but not compared to how many of us there are. We don't have any kind of media. We don't have a respectable magazine or newspaper that comes out regularly that we can talk to each other via. You can go online to the Advocate and all those things.
Right.
It's soft-core porn.
Right.
It's
if many of the parents are going to read this. A lot of parents are going to read this.
good.
And if you're a parent and you have a 11-year-old boy or 12-year-old girl, and you think that they may be gay, what do you do to protect them? How do you care for them so they can go into a world that hates them and be safe? What is it, as a parent, what would you tell your child?
Life is unfortunately not meant to be safe. And if the parent is a good parent and loves the child and the child knows that he is loved or she is loved, that's great. That is certainly part of the preparation. But it's a problem.
But love is the shield.
Well, that's what mommies and daddies are supposed to do.
That's what.
They shouldn't be, get angry because the kid is gay, which is too often the case.
It's more often than not the case.
Yeah.
Do you think homosexuality is genetic? It doesn't matter.
Again, don't matter, no. I don't, but...
Can I throw out the names of recent presidents and in terms of their response to AIDS, how you would grade them, how your feeling about them is? Okay. Could you do that?
Maybe.
Well, we know pretty much what you think about Reagan.
Yes.
What about George Bush the First?
Cold fish.
Cold fish?
Useless.
Useless.
George Bush the Jr. Asshole extraordinaire.
But not
Clinton made the biggest sellout of all with passing the offensive DOMA.
How is that possible for?
Because he just had been elected, and I remember it well. And we had raised a lot of money, and Barry Diller and David Geffen were in touch with him, and seeing that our money went to him.
And seeing what? They were in touch with him because they'd given a lot of money to him?
I think so. But they were really angry when this happened. But he was threatened by, the right wing. And he didn't have the guts.
Well, what do you do about, is that an excuse or is that what's your, you sort of expect the president to do what's right regardless of who threatens
You
him?
expect the Supreme Court to do what's right. They don't.
So what grade would you give Clinton?
Give all of them?
Yeah, if we're doing grades, F to A, let's start, we're going to play this game, Reagan.
Well, Reagan was the worst because he was the first on his watch.
Okay.
And he had all these awful people around him. Gary Bauer.
Oh, God, I forgot all about him.
Who saw to it that nothing was paid attention to. I had a meeting with Gary Bauer
Did you really?
in the White House. It's in the movie.
So you give him an F, Reagan.
Oh, God, yes.
Bush 1, you'd give,
They're all, in terms of gay people,
Yeah.
they all get Fs.
including Clinton.
Yes. We've spent all these years trying to get rid of DOMA because of him.
What about Obama so far?
C minus.
C minus?
He drives me nuts.
He's what?
He drives me nuts.
He drives me nuts too. He drives me nuts too.
Because?
Because I think he's, between you and me, I think he's a fake.
Well, I think...
That's what. He should have. You know what I mean? He's the guy who's using the line, you got to walk the walk rather than talk the talk. All he does is talk the talk and doesn't walk the walk.
He's been a big disappointment. And we're not allowed to criticize him because, we're all in negotiation with him.
That never ends.
There is something about him that he was phony.
That is phony. But wouldn't you think that it was only recently that he came around to saying that he would accept gay marriage. Remember, he was opposed to that.
He was pushed into it.
It takes
by Biden.
Pardon?
By Biden.
He was pushed that way by Biden. Oh, Biden was the one who pushed him on to accept gay marriage.
Who said it? Yeah, he said it. And it slipped out of his mouth. and Obama had not said that yet. And Obama then had no choice but to say it.
But wouldn't you, Larry, wouldn't you expect the first black president from a pariah group that's similar to gay people, and from a group that has been denied their citizenship, has been murdered and lynched like gay people have been through the history of this country, to have a special affection for gay people and their suffering?
I don't think anybody has a special affection for gay people.
You don't think anybody does?
Not any politician, no.
Tell me. I'm trying to get something. I said we got to find something up here. Let's see. Can we talk a bit about how you were diagnosed with HIV?
Yeah.
In 88 was it?
Yeah.
Now this is a mean question, but I want to ask it. When you were in, 25 years, 30 years before, when you were at Yale, you were deeply unhappy by being gay and I guess the loneliness of it, and you sought to kill yourself. Then you get this terrible, right at this. you're told that your liver is damaged and that you have HIV at the same time. Now, it would seem to me that that would be the moment you start thinking about suicide. Did you ever think about suicide at that moment? You'll see where this is going.
I was told that I only had 6 months to live, my liver. So this is 2000, year 2000, 2001. And they weren't transplanting people with HIV.
With HIV?
And so I thought, okay, I'm ready. I mean, I wasn't upset. I thought I'd contributed
Yes.
to the world, and I sort of thought like I had been, my favorite expression is, well used.
You've been well used.
And then at the very, very last minute, suddenly they wanted HIV positive people for a transplant study. And I was at death's door.
Oh.
I weighed 120 pounds. And they had done 7 of them so far.
With HIV positive people?
And I was the 8th, and the first 7, like 5 of them had died. So,
So 5 out of 7 had died, and you didn't. So, but the question was when you let me personalize it. When Richard was diagnosed, which was in '91, and he was in the hospital for something else, and he called me from his hospital room. And I was devastated. He was devastated. And I said to him, baby, just hold on. I will be there. Hold on. I will be there. Because I knew he was in that moment where he was devastated. What happened to him is the minute that diagnosis was made, he suddenly was a pariah. He was taken out of his room. Nobody would touch him. They wouldn't give him shot. Nurses wouldn't go near him to give him shots. It was. Will the machine pick up?
yeah. It's not so different in many ways. NYU still will not transplant an HIV person.
Wait a minute. That's unbelievable. I mean, I could remember. I went to Larry. This is just bullshit talk, but I went. This would have been '85. I used to live in the Dakota, right? And I went to this party, and Leonard Bernstein was a friend of mine. So I went to a party at his apartment. This is when I knew something terrible happened, because it's when the first time I had ever been to a fancy party in Manhattan where they used plastic glasses. And it was because gay people would be there, so they could throw them away. And it was when the air kiss was invented. People wouldn't kiss me on my mouth anymore. I don't know if you remember all that. And that was
Probably just as well.
That was when I began to see the whole sort of closing off, that somehow we're leprous, we're evil, we're deaf, right? And I had that sense with Richard, and one of the things when I went over to him, what I was trying to do, holding him to me, is so he wouldn't lose hope and end it, because all around him in this fucking Southampton fucking hospital, it was being made.
He was there.
Southampton, and then was moved over to northern Suffolk and ended up in Stony Brook. But the point I'm trying to make is that once that diagnosis was made, it was like night and day. And there he was. To visit him at Suffolk Hospital, I had to threaten the administrator of the fucking hospital that I would have a lawyer 24 hours a day sitting outside of his fucking room And you're going to have lawsuits up the ass if he isn't treated like everyone else.
That's what you had to do.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm still...
We went through all of that.
We're not over that, are we?
Hmm?
We aren't over that yet.
Outside of New York, no.
Well, let's talk about some good news.
What's that?
Let's talk about the Supreme Court ruling.
David and I are going to get married.
You and David are going to get married? Now, what's David's last name?
Webster.
Webster. And tell me a little bit about David. Do you mind if we put in about David? Tell me a little bit about David. I mean, how did you meet him, Larry? How did you meet him? When did you meet him?
We've known each other since late 1960s.
Oh my God!
And he's the guy I wrote Faggots about.
Oh my God!
And when it didn't work out, and I didn't see him. Is there a phone over there? No.
Should we take it off the?
I don't.
Is there anybody to take it off the hook?
No, I just wonder who it is.
So. All right, there we go. So you wrote about him in Faggots.
Yeah, I was very much in love with him.
Very much in love with him.
And then I didn't see him for 17 years.
17? Did you say 17 years?
And during that period is when I met Felix and started GMHC.
You're going to come out.
Alex Mitchell wrote a sweet piece about this times about not seeing each other for something.
You okay?
I have a bad. Some days it's awful, some days it doesn't even. Oh, it's time for my nose. Takes so many pills.
We're talking about Mr. Webster and how you met him again after 17 years.
Oh, I wanted a house in the country, and he's an architect and a decorator whose work has always moved me. He knows how to make things comfortable in a way that appeals to me, so I called him up. And I said, nothing was expected, I didn't expect anything to happen. I want to get a house, would you help me? He said, I'm going to Switzerland, I'll be back in 1 month, and I'll call you. Which he did to the day. And he had, what I didn't know is that he had...
Just so you're doing an interview.
Hello? Who's this? Huh? Debbie? See, who is this? Mendy, honey, I can't talk. Honey, happy birthday. Okay. Okay.
You were going to go somewhere? You were going to go to the bathroom?
No, I got the phone.
Mr. Webster, and he was going to design you, and he said he would call you from Switzerland.
So he said, I'll call you in a month, which he did. He was never known to keep his dates so promptly. And he invited me for dinner and proceeded to tell me that he had just taken his lover over to Switzerland to die. He was Swiss. And
Oh, God.
and
This is AIDS again.
and I had not so previously buried Felix anyway. We went to bed together that night.
Let me stop you. Felix, what was Felix's last name?
Turner. That's fake. That's a dramatic name.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about Felix.
Okay, all right. So, and then have you been together ever since?
Pretty much. At first, we just took it easy, and he designed the house, and as he likes to put it, we were comfortable with each other. We'd been through all the shit before, and so just sort of developed
How long have you been together?
since I don't know, 95.
Since '95. And when are you going to get married?
Since we can.
Are you serious on that? Is that because of the Supreme Court decision?
Absolutely.
Now, tell me what you react. You must have been overjoyed at the court's ruling.
Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. You know, I'm not one of those persons that says glory hallelujah. They gave us what we deserve, and they didn't give it to us, all of it. And they kept back some really important stuff. So I'm not, as I say, going glory hallelujah like everybody is. What they did requires a lot more lawsuits that have to be filed to clarify stuff that they refused to rule on. Thanks a lot. But we got rid of DOMA in the states where people are married, so we'll get benefits here. And that's what we want, the benefits. I was terrified that I would die and David would have to give so much money to the government from our house and everything else. He wouldn't have any money left.
It'd be death duties. Be death duties.
Whatever, yeah. So I'm grateful for that.
We
said we wouldn't get married until we got the benefits.
Let me ask you something. Just too quick. I don't want to keep you too long here. You said that that we have no. I'm going to give you the right wing argument, the homophobic argument. They say, the most recent polling shows that 80% on some issues is pushing 90% of Americans under the age of 30 are in support of gays, whether it's gay marriage, it's gay equal treatment, it's gay
I'm not even listening to you. You can give me facts and figures to support any argument you want, and I just go in one ear.
Okay.
And I feel
the question is the homophobic people who were horrified by the Supreme Court decision say the reason young people are becoming more and more sympathetic to gay rights is because we control Hollywood and the media. And they talk about, I just saw this the other day, and they talk about the Lavender Mafia.
Okay.
Which I think you're part of.
If that's what they think, good.
I mean, it doesn't exist, does it?
What, the Lavender Mafia?
No.
Well, I mean, there's an awful lot of gay artists in every field. Writers, artists, painters, theater, directors, actors.
Why is so much of Tennessee and I used to talk about this a lot, which is why is so much of Western culture, not just American culture, but Western culture, whether it's film or music or architecture or painting or literature, etc., high culture is by and large the product of Jews and gays. That's true. It was the two groups most hated in society.
Maybe because we're better than others.
What?
Maybe it's because we're smarter and more talented than others, and people resent that. I think in the case of Jews, they were always resented because they were thought to have so much money. which they may or may not have had.
Right.
In terms of gays, I guess,
What?
they don't want the kid to turn out to be an airy-fairy ballet dancer in a tutu. I don't know.
Harry Fairy ballet dancer in a tutu? Is that what you said?
I don't know why Michelle Bachmann hates me. I don't know why that whole Tea Party hates us. I mean, it's just evil. I mean, what's in it for her?
Why should she care?
Indeed, why should she care? Leave us alone already.
Yeah, but what difference does it make? How does it affect her life if we get married or if I suck somebody's cock? How does that affect her life?
Well, it evidently does. They think. I have no idea. Certain questions remain unanswerable for me. Why did so few gay people fight to save their lives? It's the height of the AIDS plague. I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you fight to save your own life? Evidently not.
Why are we hated? That I've never understood. I've never understood that.
Nor have I.
Do you think that we'll have an openly gay president? I know you said Lincoln was gay, right?
He was.
He was?
We've had a number of gay presidents.
Oh, yes. Okay, tell me who.
You have to read my book.
But I know, well, you let the cat out of the bag about. You let the cat out of the bag about Abraham Lincoln the other night at the library.
Well, it's no secret that I've been saying that. Tony gave me a little pin, the pink Lincoln.
I know Buchanan was gay.
Who?
Buchanan.
Oh, we had better ones than that.
Well, those are the only two I know of that were.
Franklin Pierce.
Franklin Pierce?
Franklin Pierce, Alexander, what's the one, like Daniel Boone, which one was that?
Harrison?
No. I have no memory for it. Anyway,
do you think in our lifetime, do you think within 20 years we'll have an openly gay president?
I mean, these kind of questions, I don't
want to speculate?
I don't think of it. And what
All right, let me put the question differently. Let me put the question differently. I mean, you've done a lot. I mean,
Andrew Jackson.
No. Andrew Jackson. My grandmother thought he was the greatest.
Anyway, that's more than I wanted to say.
All right. Listen, I want to. Anthony, I was going to read a quote from Anthony Fauci. Fauci, where and basically he said, "You changed the world." Right. So I'm asking this question of an expert on changing the world. Are you hopeful? I'm talking specifically about America for the future, for gays in America. Are you hopeful?
I think we've weathered a storm here, yeah.
We've weathered the storm.
And we weathered it because we fought back. A lot of people worked very hard, gay people, to make this happen, just like a lot of gay people fought so hard in ACT UP to get the drugs,
Right.
which proves that fighting back works. I'm essentially a hopeful person, so.
You're essentially hopeful. You're essentially hopeful.
Yeah. It's not been easy. the state of AIDS research sucks. And so everybody thinks we have all these medicines. Well, you're looking at somebody today who really feels shitty because of these medicines.
Oh, Richard was just in agony.
Well, but that was much earlier.
Yeah.
Now they're supposed to not have side effects, which is bullshit. Everybody thinks there's no side effects to this.
Yeah, everybody does that. Well, you look at the pharmaceutical ads in gay magazines. You'd think you're taking elixirs for good health. I mean, they're tennis players. They're climbing mountains, and
That's what keeps the magazines going.
This is the last question. Okay, young gay men. And I know a lot of them, and I think the thing I scream about more often is they don't use condoms, and I don't understand why it is. After all we've been through, this is not for the interview, but I don't understand why gay guys why are they still getting this shitty disease?
Because they're dumb and careless. And it broke my heart to fight so hard to get the drugs and to see them so abused afterwards. We thought, when Paul Popham and I started Gay Men's Health Crisis, that if there was to be a cure afterwards, we would become a health providing service. GMHC would be, and maybe our own hospital or whatever. None of that's happened. GMHC is a mess.
Yeah, I go to London a lot, like you. I go to London a lot. You go to London a lot. Go to bathhouses in London. It's wide open. It's like it's 1970.
Here too.
I don't get it. I mean, what do they want to die? I just don't. This is not for the interview. I just don't turn this on. I just don't get it.
I agree with you.
It angers me. It
should.